So I am really excited. Well, I'm often excited, but I'm really excited to be here with Sage. Sage, do you just go by that name?
I just go by that name. It's actually the longer version is Sage Woman,
Okay.
but that's a little strange for people, so I just go by Sage.
Okay. Well, people are often named after plants, and sage is a plant.
Yes,
And-
sage is a plant, and it has many meanings because sage is a plant, sage is a wise woman.
Yeah, which you are, as we're going to all find out. I just know you live up to your name. So I'm going
Very
to...
complimentary already. Thank you, Elliot. I'm really happy to be here also. It's delightful so far just being with you and very fun.
Well, I feel your fun spirit,
Yeah.
actually, Sage.
Yeah.
And I'm having a good time. And we just saw something amazing that we'll talk about in a little while, something of David Wilcock. And parallel realities, and Sage is many things I understand, but maybe first and foremost a teacher and a shaman. Well, what would you like to add to that list?
Well, I always hesitate with the shaman because of the indigenous people's feelings about that, but I'm
Which I admire.
Yes. I nowadays call myself an Ascension teacher.
Okay.
So I like to think of an Ascension teacher as somebody who's teaching somebody how to shift from duality consciousness into crystalline light body consciousness.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Like my friend, I know my friend Rhonda, our mutual friend,
Yes.
Rhonda Eagle, who I hope to interview soon, I hope. Okay. To shift our body state again.
To shift our bodies from carbon-based and consciousness of duality to the crystalline light body, which is so it literally the physical body will shift it into more of a silicone-based and a higher frequency, so that our physical body can hold our fifth dimensional consciousness or higher within our physical form.
Oh, in a way that makes a lot of sense, because unless we shift the physical, how could we possibly hold?
Yes.
A love consciousness,
Yes.
a powerful awareness consciousness. When our physical isn't ready for it, when our physical holds us back,
Yes.
I don't see how it can be done. So there has to be, we need to go through apparently what scientists call phase transition. Like water has three phases. It has the ice phase, the water, the liquid phase, and the gaseous phase. What if our bodies do the same thing under specific conditions, like water changes under
Yes.
specific conditions?
Yes.
And what are those conditions, and how can we, whatever they are, and how can we use those conditions to effect the change to lighter, more crystalline, loving beings? Maybe, let's just jump right into it.
Okay.
How do we change? There must be several very deep things that we need to do to transform our bodies and our consciousness. What would you say are foremost?
Well, yeah, there is a lot of things that we need to do. The focus that I tend to teach and focus on are the teachings that are coming from the Ascended Masters and the angelic realm. And so, duality means that we are really stuck in that process of reincarnation that all of us these days understand, most of us, that reincarnation exists, and anybody watching this show understands reincarnation exists. And so in order to get out of that reincarnation cycle, you have to bring your karma into balance, back into love. So on an energetic basis, we have all created the energy that we're responsible for from the past. So whatever we have created in our consciousness, in behavior, in relationship to other people, we have literally used electrons from our universe and pulled them together into discordant energy patterns. And so we need
and discordant structures.
Discordant
built
structures
from those patterns.
Yes. And then those patterns are within your body also. they're also within your DNA. And I just learned something fascinating from a channeling that those energy patterns are also held within your emotional body in something that is called your emotional body is created in plates. They're like the old LP records, those round flat records that vinyl records. And within those vinyl records are grooves.
Yes.
That the needle would go around. So our plates have, it's like a vinyl record with a groove, and within the groove we have 100,000 tetrahedrons within those grooves, and those tetrahedrons hold our emotional body. They're like pockets of energy within the tetrahedrons. And those tetrahedrons carry all of your history from the time when you were first created. So when you're first created, you're given 100,000 tetrahedrons. 1/3 of those are in alignment with the perfection of your divinity. 2/3 are designed to give you to use in your own way because we're able to use free will. And within our free will, over all of our many hundreds of lifetimes, we've created out of fear and separation and duality. And so one of the ways that one of the reasons we keep reincarnating is that all of these energies that we hold in our field have to be brought back into the balance of love. And the way that we do that these days, the Ascended Masters have given us the path of using the sacred fires to clear out the energy field in those tetrahedrons. So you can use the violet flame and the white fire, specifically those two, to literally wash through those tetrahedrons to clear out the karmic patterns that you've created that you're responsible for. Without the sacred fires, you have to go through your laborious lifetime after lifetime of setting up situations so that you can bring them into balance, but there's just such a backload of karma that most people have to clear up, that those lifetimes are just really unending. But the sacred fires will clear. So that's the first and foremost important thing to be able to shift into your crystalline consciousness, is using the sacred fires to balance your karma. Because you can't go through the ascension process, they say, until you hit the magic number of 51% of your karma gets balanced. So once 51% is balanced, the other 49% you can take responsibility for once you are on the other side and you've left your body and in service to humanity.
Okay. Alrighty, so we're talking 7 flames or more?
Well, there are many flames. There are 7 flames, but there are many flames that the Ascended Masters are teaching light workers to use these days. Too many really for me to go through, but there are basic of 7, and there are 5 more that people are finding out about now, but the 7 are the most important, and out of those 7, the violet flame is the most important.
The most powerful cleanser. We have a little copper frame violet flame pyramid here.
Nice.
Yes, outside. I could show it to you later on.
And then the next thing I was thinking, we just watched this film, David Wilcox, about the pineal gland.
Yes, that's right.
So part of the crystallization of the body is crystallizing the glands, the pituitary, the pineal, and the hypothalamus, the thalamus gland behind the heart.
Yes.
And that process is critical because it's like your pineal gland has been in hibernation.
That's right.
Yeah, it's gone into like a deep rest and asleep. And so
for thousands of years.
For thousands of years. And without the pineal gland awake, you have no access into your multidimensional self. And part of waking up into who we really are as God beings is understanding that we're multidimensional beings all the time, but we have no access to ourselves as multidimensional beings.
Yes, one of my heroes, Barbara Hand-Clow, a great shaman and teacher and writer, she calls it vibrational prison.
Yes.
Most people are in vibrational prison. 3D, go and get a job or don't get a job, try to make enough money, trying to get through the day, trying to make it to the summer vacation.
Yes.
I would call that vibrational prison.
That's vibrational prison.
Yeah. You live, you die, you get sick when you get old, you get sick, you die.
And you do it again.
Yeah.
And you do it again.
And you work hard and you make huge mistakes sometimes.
And then your reincarnation pattern keeps going.
Yeah.
And you do it again. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so how do we get out of prison is the question. Well, you and I, we agreed before that we're both fans of the Telos series, a trilogy of books.
Oh, I love the Telos series.
And of the great late, but not really late since nobody dies, a great late Aurelia Louise Jones, who channeled those books from the High Priest of Telos, Adama. And in those books, she talks about temples of different sacred flames. And she says that, that there's, for instance, in Telos, a temple, several temples, or even quite a few. There's a temple of the violet flame of Saint Germain, and another temple of, I think Telos has just about...
they have a temple for every sacred flame.
For everything.
And they're for all the seven.
And in Luxor, Egypt, there's a temple of Serapis Bey.
Yes, the Ascension temple is there.
The master of the white flame, whose picture, whose drawing is right over there.
Yes.
And in Jerusalem, right by one of the gates, maybe one of the closed gates, I forget the name of the gate, but I don't think it's open. There's a gate of the Christ, of Jesus, of the resurrection flame. And
there's a resurrection flame. Yes, over the is it over Jerusalem? That's interesting. They always just said the Arabian desert. So
no. Aurelia says in
nice.
Was it Aurelia? It might have been in this. It was in one of her books.
Yes.
Or some material that I read somewhere that the resurrection flame, the golden yellow Christ flame, is in Jerusalem.
Ah, beautiful.
Or at one of the gates, the gate that they say the Messiah will have to come through. Which is not an open gate today. Judy maybe could tell you what the name of that gate is.
Yeah.
It slips through my mind at the moment. But the thing about these gates that is mentioned in the books is anybody could go there at any time.
Yes, you're talking about the sacred retreats in the etheric realm.
Yes.
Also that they have. So they have them in the Royal Tetons. They have them over Mount Shasta. You're talking different places all around the planet where the Kohans and the Ascended Masters exist, and where people in their dream world can go for lessons at nighttime, and they're being taught by all these different Ascended Masters in these retreats.
You just ask and intend sincerely to go there.
Yes.
And you'll go there, and there's a temple of the green flame in Telos for healing. The great jade temple for healing. You just intend and ask, and you don't have to just do it before you go to sleep, or you could go there and ask in your meditations. Now, we don't have all super early developed, I suppose, pineal glands like I understand you do, Sage. But even if you don't see anything or hear anything, even if you're just like me, maybe you'll just feel it.
You'll feel it.
But that's a lot. And if you don't feel it at the beginning and you keep trying, you'll feel it.
That's right. That's right. You do it over time, and you use faith like you do with all the spiritual practices.
Yes.
And eventually that faith comes back, and your heart opens, and you start having a different way of thinking, a different way of being in your consciousness, and then you start to think, oh, maybe something is changing by going into these temples. And
not to give up, and not to lose. To have faith that you go there when you sincerely ask.
Yes.
When you knock and the door's open. When you sincerely ask, you'll go. Some important, deep aspect of your soul will go.
Well, really, once you have made a decision to ascend, once you've said, that's it, this is my last lifetime, and I have an intention to ascend, and you really seriously get on that path, there is so much hope for you. And there is an Ascended Master that's assigned to you. There are different beings that are assigned to you to take you by the hand and get you there. Once you really clearly make that decision, so we really are not alone on this path.
Yes, I know that, and it's important that we all understand that.
Yeah.
So that this is a universe based on love, though there's been a lot of darkness on our world, and that's changing. That's changing right now, a lot. And
so I can bring up one more thing about the crystallization of the body.
You betcha.
So another aspect that I work on is crystallizing the DNA. And I do that by using sacred geometry. And the teachings originally came from James Tiburon and Archangel Metatron, who channeled the Metatronic keys. And so it's an integration of upshifting your Merkaba, which is your light body that you can travel in. But the Merkaba has been outdated. It's based in duality. So the Merkaba is like two pyramids inverted. Don't know how to do that
One
with
is
my
inverted
hands.
and one is facing up.
Yes.
The sky and the earth pyramid, what they call
That's
sky
right.
and earth pyramids.
That's right.
One pointing up, one pointing down.
Exactly.
Star of David, three-dimensional.
That's right. And they have opposite spins.
Okay.
One spins one way and the other spins the other way, the two pyramids. So that is representative of duality, though. And so what we're doing now is upshifting those tetrahedrons into a Merkaba, which is spinning in one direction. They're spinning together in unity.
Which direction?
And the spinning...
Clockwise, counterclockwise?
Okay, so I have to go through Merkaba. So the Merkaba goes counterclockwise,
Yeah.
which is an eight-pointed star.
All
Then
right.
you upshift into a Merkaba, which spins clockwise.
Okay.
Then you upshift into the Merkana,
Ah.
which spins counterclockwise.
Ah.
Merkana is 20-pointed, and we're only able at this point to integrate up to the Merkana. But then there will be another upshift, which is the Merkaba, which is the Christos, which will then spin clockwise. So your pineal gland, and when you integrate in that Merkaba, your three glands, you spin them all in the counterclockwise direction, in the same direction with the Merkaba. So all together, and the DNA and the RNA within your cells, within your DNA, they also become crystallized and spin. And you're working with those tetrahedrons in the vinyl.
Yes, yes.
Those emotional rings that you have, and so everything is spinning together and rising up to the speed of crystalline light. So crystalline light is coherent light. Crystalline light, instead of having, like the sun comes and sort of refracts out everywhere, light refracts everywhere.
Yes.
But when you become crystalline, you become like this. The light is like a laser beam. And so everything becomes coherent in your consciousness. And as you become crystallized, like David Wilcox was talking in the chakras, right now, the chakras are all like 7 different consciousnesses that are all kind of in competition with each other.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah, meaning that, let's say you want to make a decision about getting a job.
Okay.
So my root chakra says, oh my God, I need a job. I'm in fear. I'm in survival mode. I've got to have money. I have to pay my bills. My second chakra, my feeling realm, and my money starts, my emotional body says, oh, I'm a little nervous about going out for that interview, even though I need a job. I don't know if I can. My third chakra is my power center, depending on if I have enough personal power or not. I could be overriding all that, so I've got plenty of personal power. I'm just going to talk them into it. Or you'll say, oh my God, they're not going to like me. My self-esteem, I have no power.
Yes.
My heart chakra and my identity, depending on whether I even am operating in my upper chakras or not. Most people only operate in their first 3 chakras because they're operating in daily life, survival, relationships, and their power. They never really ask this part about who am I. So, does this job really reflect who I am? Will it expand my identity? And is this job in my throat chakra, am I going to really be able to create the life that I want out of my manifestation chakra? My brain, so does my belief systems, do they go along with, do I think I can do this job? Do I have what it takes to do this job? Do I believe I can do this job? And then is it in alignment with spirit? So right now, all of those, in every decision we make, all of our relationships, our chakras are all in competition with each other all
You
the
just
time.
summed up my life.
Yeah. Everybody's life. That's what happens because we're all literally, separation is represented by the separation of our chakras. So as we move towards unity consciousness, the heart chakra will awaken. There is literally a heart chakra in every chakra. And in unity consciousness, the heart chakra will merge into all the chakras, and all of the chakras will be alignment because you'll be living through the heart chakra, which is your divinity, and all the chakras will be in agreement because you will know what to do. You're operating through your heart.
Ooh, wow. That just clarified some long time questions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Anything else on this?
Yes. So an interesting thing about working with the Merkava, the Merkava, and the Merkana is that the Earth frequency is rising now. So the crystalline grid has been awakened on the Earth during the 12-21-12. The Earth Ascension happened, right? The crystalline grid was activated. That's what we lightworkers had been working on for years, to activate that grid. But that means that the Schumann resonance of the Earth is rising. So the Earth frequency...
That's the core vibration of the Earth.
Yes, and it's like the heartbeat of the Earth.
Heartbeat of the Earth.
The heartbeat of
and
the
a
Earth.
long time ago, back in the 80s, and for a long time before that, it was like it's 7.8 hertz per second.
Exactly.
And nowadays, Braden, the great Braden talks about this. Nowadays, God knows where it is. Do you know where it is?
I don't know exactly. In some places it's up to 13, but it's rising.
Okay.
Depends on where you're at on the Earth, but it's stayed, like you said, stable for years and years. It never moved. Science thought it was a stable frequency, but now it's been rising very quickly over the last 2 decades.
That's correct.
Quickly, yes.
And that's very important.
Very important because what happens when you are a vibrational being, the vibrational field that you exist in, if you are in, let's say you go to a sacred site, and that sacred site resonates at 13, but your body is at 7.8, whatever it is. It's like osmosis. It's like when you put paper in a cup, it absorbs the water. Okay, so your body absorbs the vibrational frequency. And then if you don't have a high enough vibrational frequency, what actually happens is your etheric field cracks because it bursts. The energy gets bigger and bigger, and and you can have a blowout. So that's why a lot of people, when they go to sacred sites, they feel fantastic in the beginning because your vibration raises, your mind is thinking better thoughts, you're feeling happy, your pineal gland may even open up and you're having visions. But then if you stay too long, you become exhausted and get really tired. And people who live in sacred places like Jerusalem, or I was just in Roslyn, they can start, all of their lower vibrational emotional stuff starts coming up to their consciousness and has to be dealt with. And if you don't have the tools to deal with it, then people will just go into, sometimes they can go into depressions or things like that.
Fascinating.
So working with the Merkava, the point is that when you integrate the Merkava and the Merkava and the Merkana, you're raising and upshifting your energy field. And as you raise your field, you can only raise your field and integrate those stars if you've done your personal work and raised your vibrational frequency. You can't do it artificially. But as you do that, it crystallizes the body and holds an energetic field for you to raise your vibrational frequency. And you can use that. This is really interesting. The most important part is that I'm going to talk about time and space a little bit now.
Good, because we want to get to that.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
So now we're here. So Metatron had channeled that you use these vehicles for travel. So the Merkava, you can travel to what's called your oversoul. Your oversoul is like a command base for all of your simultaneous lifetimes.
So I understand.
And so for people who don't understand or need a good picture of simultaneous lifetimes, how they happen in the oversoul, you can imagine a ball of light, and this might be your oversoul. And out of this ball is like a tube torus where there are spokes of light coming out everywhere. Thousands of them coming out of this ball of light. Every one of those spokes is a lifetime.
Okay.
And so they're all time holograms. Each one of those spokes is a time hologram. and a space-time hologram, that on this planet, where we are right now, it seems like we're the only ones existing in this space.
Yeah.
But we're not.
Except for people like you. Yeah.
Yes. So this space can be occupied by many, many different time holograms. It's all vibrational frequency. So we don't see it because our time-space frequency is vibrating at a certain level. And somebody else, maybe in the year 3000 BC, is vibrating at that time-space.
And they're living here.
And they're living here.
In my salon, but they don't see my salon.
That's right.
They see their house.
Right. That's right.
Or, whoa.
That's right. And so there are several ways that you can go back through time. One is by taking and changing your history, your past lives. You can travel through your Merkava out in a place where your Merkava and your Merkava are together. And you travel to that oversoul, and from that oversoul, then the Divine Mothers came in and taught me how to use the sacred fires to go in and heal and transmute the energy and the karmic patterns of all those lifetimes happening simultaneously. So you're calling in the Divine Master, the Ascended Masters, you're calling in the angels and the sacred fires, and sitting in a consciousness there and seeing yourself as your own divinity. You are your God self. And you're sending waves and waves of sacred fire out to all of those lifetimes, harmonizing the energy of all of those lifetimes at once. And so that, because when you have trauma in one of those spokes, there's bleed through that comes into the consciousness of the other lifetimes right now.
For sure.
So if I'm trying to become an abundant being, but I have 25 lifetimes where I'm experiencing poverty, the bleed through from those poverty lifetimes are going to impact me now. So I'm trying to become a creator being, but I've got all this trauma happening simultaneously right now, affecting me, who I am now. And so when you travel to your oversoul, you can rewrite your history, and you can send the sacred fires in to change, to harmonize and make new realities happen within those lifetimes, because you're in the command center of your soul.
Wow.
And that's very important for the ascension process, because you've got to, all of you needs to ascend. All of your lifetimes need to become harmonized eventually, as if all of you is going to leave this realm. Not just one little part of you is going to ascend. You need to bring all of yourself into divinity.
Okay, that's mind-blowing. A couple of things pop into my mind.
Yeah.
When you talk about that, I remember of a book by Barbara Ann Clow about one of the Mind Trilogy series, where she discusses traveling to one of her past lives, a Mayan life where she was a priest who ritually sacrificed a young woman, like they did, taking out the heart. And she remembers that lifetime, and she remembers there was a crucial point where these evil priests convinced her to drink a pulque. I don't know if that's how you say it. A drink which would, she was a male at that lifetime, which would rob her of her free will.
Yeah.
And then after she drank it, she just did this ceremony, and there was nothing that she could do. She was sort of like, part of her would have known better, but she had drunken this drink. And these what are called Mayan daykeepers come to her, and they take her to that incident.
Yes, and I want to add that the daykeepers are the keepers of time, so you can travel through time with the daykeepers.
Do you know the daykeepers?
I just work with them because the initiations I've been through work with the daykeeper rites.
Okay. The daykeeper what?
Rites, to connect you with the daykeepers.
Rites?
The rites, yeah, the Munaiki rites. One of the Munaiki rites connects you with the daykeepers. I don't want to sidetrack you too much.
All right. So anyway, as she describes in the book, they come to her now in her current life as Barbara Ann Clow. And she's taken back to that time. She goes into that Mayan young man that she was then, She has a second chance. She sees these evil priests offering her the pulque and trying to force her to drink it. And she refuses.
She refuses.
Okay?
Yes.
And are you saying that, so if the Daykeepers could come to you and take you back to your, now, since all time the physicists will say this, there is no past, and there is even no future, it's all simultaneous, somehow. So they came and they took her to her simultaneous power, because there's no past.
Right.
Mayan lifetime. And she was given to do it again, and she did. She made the right choice this time around. So, did she use a Merkiva or Merkana or whatever?
No, well, there are many different ways to do that. I have another way to do that.
Okay.
Because that's more general. I could take one of those spokes and travel in and understand that lifetime. What I was doing just now was a generalized clearing.
Which is, of course, the best.
Which is very important.
Because you can do them all at one time.
Right. And really the magic of the sacred fires is that is possible. But you have to do it consistently as a practice. It's not something that you do just one time. It's really a practice. But there is another way that I travel and that I teach, and it's through wormholes. Traveling back through wormholes of time. So I'm going to tell two stories.
Yofi, wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So the first story is my first trip to Egypt when I went to the pyramids. So I was in Cairo, and I was laying on my bed in Cairo, probably about 20 miles from the pyramids. And as I was laying on my bed in the morning, I was woken up because my body was like a magnet was pulling my body physically across the bed. I was literally physically moved about 6 inches sliding across the bed, and I couldn't figure out why I was laying there still like this and sliding with this incredible magnetic pull, and I'd never had anything like that happen to me. So I asked Spirit, is this all right?
Yeah.
Am I working with beings of light, or is this something I should be concerned about? And they said, no, it's fine. Just let go. And so I let go, and my energy body, my spirit, went flying into the pyramids.
Oh, wow.
And all of a sudden I was sitting in the center of the pyramid, and I was in meditation.
In the King's chamber?
Not in the King's chamber. I was sitting down in the bottom someplace of the pyramid.
Okay.
And when I looked up, etherically, I saw all these gates in the pyramid.
Yes.
And so I called in my energetic shaman sisters, spiritual sisters that I work with. Not really shaman, but we work in the older dimensions of time, space. And somehow, it must have been from some lifetime that I understood how to do this, because I have no understanding of how I did it. But we opened up the gates.
Ooh, wow.
Instantly, they opened. And I started flying through it felt like tunnels all over the earth. And all over, like, fast, going everywhere. I would just think about where I'm going, and I'd be shooting through these, it felt like tunnels. And then I came back into my body, and then my friend, White Eagle, medicine woman who channels, that's who I was there with, she brought in the grandmothers that I've worked with for years. And the grandmothers sat down and said, when she was channeling, so Sage, you found the wormholes.
Oh, my.
And I said, is that what that was? And she said, yes, the pyramids were designed for time-space travel.
That's what the Keys of Enoch says.
Ah, yes.
Okay, continue.
Yeah, so she said, once you understand how to travel through the wormholes, you can go anywhere in the universe.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So that was my first experience to wormholes. Then the next experience, I'm going to leap forward now a couple of years, and I'm working with plant medicine, because that's how I learn my exercises frequently and connect with ascended masters. I use like ayahuasca or San Pedro or something. And I was using San Pedro, and I work with ascended master Katumi, who's now Katumi Agrippa. And Katumi works with psychologists.
Wait a second. Katumi Agrippa, that's the name that there's a famous South African channeler who says that...
Michelle Manders. Michelle Eloff used to be Michelle Eloff, now it's Michelle Manders.
Okay,
yes.
She says that Katumi, well, one of the aspects of Katumi,
yes,
now goes by the name of Katumi Agrippa.
Yes.
Which is, then are you connected with,
yes.
you know about
I've worked with Michelle Manders for Years,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
And that's how I made my connection with Katumi, was through her channelings.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
All right.
I work with her projects. Anyway, I won't go there. But anyway, so Katumi came, and at the time I was taking a class from Michelle on DNA and soul fragments, on how to clear your DNA.
Okay.
Okay, so because he was teaching us that one of the things you have to do for your ascension is you need to heal your ancestral history, because your DNA carries the consciousness of your ancestors. So when you have ancestors in your past that have experienced trauma, that trauma is alive and well in your physical body and is part of your consciousness.
Cryan also talks about this in a different way.
Yes.
Yes, continue.
So I may be working on an issue my whole lifetime, psychologically, emotionally, doing whatever I can, and I just can't clear it. It's because I have to go back and clear the ancestral line. But what Katumi didn't teach in that particular class was how do you go further back than the ancestors that you know in your immediate history.
Yeah.
So when I was using my plant medicine, Katumi came to me and he said, I want you to go in your body and take a strand of your DNA out, and you pick an issue that you want to work on. So I said, okay, I want to work on money issues, on my poverty. So he took me down through what I found out later was a wormhole within the DNA. So when you stretch, I found out later through different channelings and teachings that when you stretch out your DNA, then you look at your genes, and there will be one gene that will light up, and then I open up a wormhole and down through the wormhole we go. And the DNA is a microcosm of the macrocosm.
Yeah.
So the DNA in the pyramid, not the DNA, the wormhole in the pyramid is like the macrocosm traveling. The DNA wormhole in your DNA is the microcosm. So.
And you could travel from the DNA in your body to other worlds, to other planets.
Yes.
As Barbara Hand-Clough said,
yes.
To go through your thumbnail into the Andromeda Galaxy, for instance.
Yes.
It's all a hologramic?
It's all hologramic. And so your 12 strands of DNA, they're starting to wake up. Part of the waking up process we all know is that the 12 strands are going to all become conscious. So those 10 strands hold all of your ancestral history, all your spiritual history, all your past life history. So you can travel through those wormholes to your ancestors or to your past lives and find and relive those ancestral stories and heal them through the power of forgiveness, or replaying them just like Barbara Hand-Clough did. So the Divine Mother told me to go in and you bring divine will with you, the blue flame of sacred, the blue sacred flame of divine will leads me through to those past lives. That's what I teach people how to do. Divine will takes you to the exact lifetime of the exact ancestor. You relive it in your whole body, your emotions, the feelings. It's not easy to do because the trauma is usually so difficult. And then Divine will tell you how to replay and redo the life like Barbara Hand-Clough did.
Whoa.
Or just use the power of forgiveness, because when an ancestor has done something terrible I feel bad about, if they have a full witnessing of it and forgiveness, then they can let go. And also, I'm talking so fast because there's so much information.
Yes.
But there's also so many of our ancestors didn't pass over, and they're stuck on the astral plane. And those ancestors who are stuck on the astral plane are also impacting us now and need help. And so we have the ability to go back and find those ancestors and cross them over into the light.
Well, isn't this the basis of family constellation?
Yes. Hellinger's work.
Hellinger's work, Dan Kampenhout, I don't know if you know about him.
No.
He's a shamanic family constellation man, and he works with the Siberian. He won't call himself a shaman. He works with the Siberian shamans and also the rabbis, and because that's his father's line. So if anybody on the ancestral tree or the family is traumatized, it is a matrix.
Yes.
That affects everybody.
Yes. In the whole family line.
The whole family line. And, okay. And as for the wormholes in the body that could take you to past lives, they could even take you I was telling you about books about Pan,
Mm-hmm.
written by a good buddy of Pan, named Michael Rhodes, an Australian man,
Uh-huh.
who is wonderful. And Pan came to him many years ago, and they do work together. Pan teaches him one-on-one, and I'm jealous.
Yes,
But-
me too. I'm actually jealous of all these people who really channel such amazing beings.
and they are wonderful, enjoyable books, because Pan is enjoyable. Pan is the word fun. I'm
Yes.
sure the word fun comes from Pan.
Fun.
Fun.
Fun. When
Yeah.
I've accessed Pan energy, it is absolute blissed out fun. No judgment about anything, and the whole world is your creative playground.
He defines himself in the book as the spirit of nature,
Yes.
also the spirit of balance.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So fun. It sounds like Pan. In the Hebrew, the pa and the fa are the same letter.
Uh-huh.
So we would spell fun and Pan if you wanted the same way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ah.
So he's many things, Pan.
Great.
He's the spirit of nature, which is many, many things. Which includes all things, I suppose. Anyway, Pan says in the book to Michael Rhodes, he guides them through one of these wormholes in his DNA, or
He does?
yes, through a vortex, through some kind of vortice in his body, through the DNA, connected with the DNA or deep in the DNA.
Oh, wow.
And he takes him to another lifetime, on another world, because
Yes.
we can also connect.
Yes.
Not only to other lifetimes, other simultaneous
That's right.
lifetimes from Earth, but from other worlds, because we have a great long cosmic history.
Which is all in your DNA.
Which is all
Even
in
those
the
other
DNA.
planets.
Even the planets, like Barbara says, going to the. I mean, it's all everything
Yes.
is in our DNA. Is in our bodies, like going to the, going to the Andromeda galaxy through the thumbnail or whatever part you want.
Mm-hmm.
I always think of that image.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
So I just have to say I'm so excited because I haven't heard of anybody else who has done that.
Well, you have to
I'm
read the
thrilled.
books.
I have to read the
Oh,
book.
friends, read the books. Read the books. I think it's Michael J. Rhodes, but it's Michael Rhodes for sure.
Uh-huh.
Probably spelled Roads, but I won't bet money on that. And what great books! They've changed the way I see things, and I feel connected to Pan much more from reading those books. Anyway, I want to get into time, space, and space-time, and what David Wilcock was talking about. But before, again, just to return for a moment about the crystallization in the body.
Yes.
Okay, now, he was talking, David in the film, which is called, go to his website, friends, go to the website of the great David Wilcock, who I'm convinced is Edgar Casey, was Edgar Casey in a past life. Though it's important in a way when you start understanding what he's teaching and what he's come to do. But the film, and there are several free films, and the film is called Enigma 2012, something. I think that's it. And
Excuse me.
okay,
I sneezed.
God bless
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Okay, so we've been talking about the calcification of the body, going from what Barbara in her books many years ago said, going from I think carbon-based beings to silica-based beings. Silica, like in computers. Okay, and that's the goal. And I understood that's to activate our crystalline bodies, our crystalline light bodies. And now, what he mentioned on the film is we talked a lot about the pineal gland and a problem in the pineal gland called the calcification in the pineal gland, which comes from, one of the things it comes from is eating a lot of bad food, white sugar, and refined this and refined that. Not too much of these things, soda, He said other things. They cause calcification in the pineal gland and completely very much close it down. And then a psychic like you would maybe see a dark spot in the area of the third eye, and that's an indication of what they call in the Bible the mark of the beast, a pineal gland that's been sort of calcified and closed down. But what you're talking about is a positive crystallization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
in the
different
body.
calcification is a density of third dimensional frequency. So
Yes.
crystalline is raising the frequency.
Okay. And they have discovered in the group, Steve Rother in the group, great channeling there. That he's showed on his website photos of crystals, not calcification,
Mm-hmm.
but crystals that they found that have started appearing
Mm-hmm.
in the human brain
Mm-hmm.
and other parts of the body as well.
Mm-hmm.
So this is hard science.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As is a three-dimensional time, how do I say it? A parallel reality in which, look, we live in what's called in what people call space-time. In our reality, you could travel any direction in space, but time is set. It only flows forward in one direction.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go to the past. You can't go to the future. It'll come, but you can't jump into the future. You can only travel along this river. It's set. Whereas space, you can go anywhere in space. In this space-time reality, you could go to anywhere on this Earth, planets, whatever. But according to David, and according to amazing scientific research, which he discusses in some detail on this film, there is an alternate reality, a parallel reality where it's flipped, where it's just the opposite, where time is a domain, time is a field, and you could go anywhere you want, forward, backward, to other parallel realities, I suppose. And it's a field, it's a domain. It's not something that's set. And and in that reality, he says there's a lot of experiments where you shoot there's been an experiment several times where you shoot what's called a fullerene or a buckyball, which is a thing, an object, material. It's 60 carbon molecules arranged together in a tiny sort of instrument that could be used for different things. It's called a buckyball or a fullerene, whatever I said before.
It looked like it was shaped like a dodecahedron,
Yes.
like a soccer ball with different points around the.
But it's a real object,
right?
Okay? It's made out of matter. It's a real object.
Mm-hmm.
If you could make enough of them, you could clean up oil spills. It's very, very tiny. It's about the width of our DNA, which is important. David explains. You shoot it through what do you call it? An extremely tiny slit in not so tiny that it won't pass through, but like this little sort of interference wall. It shoots through a tiny slit, and then it turns inside out, and the object, it's a real object that they have to create and build. When it goes through the tiny slit, on the other side it turns into a wave.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now a wave, so it's no longer a particle, it's a wave. And a wave means that it's non-localized
Mm-hmm.
in time space. In other words, if I were a wave, then I could be in many places at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as I'm matter, as long as I'm object, then I could only be in one place at one time. in a way, my physicality anyway. So in this other reality, we become sort of more like waves, and we could be in many places at once. We could go to different places, and it's science. I can't explain the science. I don't know enough, but David explains it, and he cites specific studies that have shown it, that it's absolutely hard science, that this other reality, we live in space-time, this time-space reality where time is a domain, is a three-dimensional domain, that you could travel in all directions, not like our reality. So, you, Sage, you go to this other reality. Would you agree that there's one other reality? How do you jive, or whatever the word is, your personal experience with what you saw today on the film?
Well, I'm also not able to talk about the science of it, so I have only conceptual ideas. I get it when I watch it, but they're so... the science of those waves, I just want to give an example of what you're a couple of examples of what you're talking about, because I can only talk about things that I understand or read. That one thing is that there is a story about Saint Germain when he was first coming to Guy Ballard, when he was introducing, before he learned about the violet flame, but he was personally teaching a few students who were on the planet. And he would take Guy Ballard by the hand, and he wanted to show him who he was in different lifetimes. So all he would do is take him by the hand, and all of a sudden, he would be literally in South America, fully in South America, 3,000 years ago.
Physically?
Physically.
So other people could see him too?
The other people couldn't see him.
Okay.
But he could feel and touch the plants and the...
Okay.
Like he was there. He could walk, he had to open it. They could walk through doors. It was very strange. Like he could touch the door, but he could also walk through the door.
Because he was at a slightly different...
He was a slightly different vibrational frequency, yeah. But he was in that hologram of time. And then he would want to take him to another lifetime. So all of a sudden he would take his hand and boom, they would be in Egypt. And they would be in Luxor. And he could see who he was in that, and he would watch himself in that lifetime. And he could touch the pyramids, he could touch the walls, he could touch everything, but nobody could see him because he was slightly in that different hologram stage, but the same vibrational hologram that they existed in. But all he had to do was touch his hand to get there. They didn't have to, like they would like sort of move through space and time. I don't know how they did it, but it was very fast, like instantaneously. And the Telos people talk about how they can be in Telos, and that there are interdimensional tunnels that go all the way through the earth, and within moments you can be on the other side of the earth.
Or, well, it is even the Indian Swamis in Yogananda's book, Autobiography of a Yogi. He talks about people being in, well, bilocation.
Yes, bilocation.
But that's a little different. That's being in two places at the same time.
Yes.
Or three or four.
Right. Yes. So what he was doing with Guy Ballard was teleportation.
Yes. Yes.
And so they were dissolving and showing up in another time sequence someplace.
Okay.
And so he was saying that's actually when we shift in our consciousness up to fifth dimensional consciousness, that will be totally natural for us to do it.
That sounds like fun.
Yes, and that's what the grandmothers have been teaching us in our teachings over the last 10 years, that eventually, but we have to let go of. One of the things I learned is that your pineal gland is also your, Metatron says, it's your doorway of belief. And so if you are trying to manifest something, let's say you want to work on teleportation, but you have a belief that is stored in your pineal gland that says, that is not possible.
For me.
Then your whole neural network, everything that operates in your emotional body and everything stops. It just stops. It won't go past that belief system. It's a doorway.
Tell me about it.
in everything that we manifest.
Tell me about
So I learned about, I think I have a little experience when I go through those wormholes of turning into a wave. And it happened again when I was in Egypt, when a friend of mine, Khaled Hamidi, took me to the sarcophagus. He was the head archaeologist down there, so we could go into private tombs. And there was a group of 4 of us that all do this kind of work together, and he was kind of testing us to see who we were. He didn't say anything, but he said, I want you to sit on this corner of the sarcophagus, you sit on this corner, you sit on this corner, you sit on this corner. And he said, and then he puts our head up against the sarcophagus. And all of a sudden, I started shooting through wormholes again. And I was going so fast, and I would hit a gate and go through the gate. And I'd hit another gate and go through and I went through like 9 gates, but I was going so fast I knew I was heading through the universe someplace and not understanding where. And at the same time, though, it was like bilocated, because my physical body was hysterically crying because I was having this huge opening experience. So part of me turned into a wave, and off I go. And I went so fast that I thought, I don't know where I'm going, so I pulled myself back physically into my body, and I ran over to Khaled and I said, what happened to me? I just went through these 9 gates, I'm flying through the universe, and I don't know where I'm going. And he starts cracking up and he says, do you see those 9 monkeys on the wall up there? Those are the 9 gates. And the whole tomb is created with sacred geometry as a map through the universe, so that when the kings or the pharaohs died, they had an energetic map that they would follow.
Who is this guy? This is no conventional Egyptologist.
No, he is not. He studied the whole mystery behind Egyptian.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so
it's, I don't understand all that. I just know that I've had little glimpses of it by going through the wormholes in the pyramids, the wormholes through the DNA, and really finding and experiencing different ancestors' real lives, going into their bodies, going through those things in the tombs, and understanding and going through with my Merkiva out to my oversoul, and feeling myself in relationship to all those lifetimes at once. So it's just sort of like entering into that multi-dimensional reality that is really out of the 3-dimensional time and space.
Okay. Whoa, did you have another story about the wave and the time travel, or because I don't want to cut you off on any stories.
I think just when I'm doing my it's easier, David Wilcox talks about the pineal gland.
No S at the end. Wilcock.
David Wilcock.
He lives in LA, probably not so far from you.
Not far from me.
Yes.
Yeah. That he talks about when you take ayahuasca or something, that the melatonin is released and the DMT is activated.
Well, the DMT, he actually says, he said he took some LSD trips and he wouldn't recommend it to anyone because it's very dangerous. And he says that he doesn't talk about ayahuasca being, but anyway, about LSD being dangerous. I guess anything could be dangerous if you don't have sacred intent, and guidance, and
so when I do my journeys, I go down to Peru and I work with the Shipibo shamans in Peru.
Yes.
And I'm always just for the public's awareness here of who I am, I've always done it with sacred intent.
Yes.
Always.
It's not a toy to play with.
Yes.
These are, if you take it with that attitude, these are all dangerous things.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't even do recreational drugs as a teenager.
Yes.
I don't believe in them, and I don't drink. I lived in a Hindu temple for 10 years during my 20s. I kind of passed up that whole bar scene and thing. I never really participated in that. So
I'm glad you say that.
Yeah, so just to clear that, because people don't know who I am, I'm very, very, very protective of my etheric field and my aura and my consciousness, and once you are on that path of ascension, the last thing that you want to do when you've come to a certain point is go backwards.
And playing around with any of these things. Including alcohol.
Yes.
Could damage these fields.
Yes, it damages your fields and it lowers your vibrational frequency. And so, yeah, so I'm always only will do it with intent, so that I have the intent of connecting with my ascended beings and having the teachings that I need to teach to help humanity. And I do it very rarely, just to be clear
Okay.
about that. Thanks.
Alrighty.
Yeah, so I think that the only other place I really experience that is during my ayahuasca journeys, when I'm traveling to and working with the Ascended Masters, and have experiences where the Divine Mother came into my body and embodied me for about 4 hours.
Wow.
And taught me about what my life was going to be in my future, because at this particular point in my life I was very, I couldn't get out of this suicidal place that I was in.
Yeah.
And because I really thought I was so hooked into the suffering on the planet, and I just could not disengage from the suffering. I felt the poverty in the world. I felt the homelessness. I've worked for years with the Jewish-Palestinian issue, and it was all so much in my body. And I thought, I just had to get out of here. I couldn't stop thinking about it. So they told me later, the grandmothers, they had to do something. So they had to show me what my path was going to be in my life. And so the Divine Mother came in. I lost my ego concept of who I was altogether. And she started taking me around the planet and giving me different, showing me the changes that were going to happen. So she took me into the future and showed me different things. Like she took me to the pyramids and showed me how the mechanics of the pyramids and the Sphinx, I can't explain it, but it was sort of like activating these old ancient energies again, until it just, something opened up energetically and connected with the different stars. And then she took me up to Sirius, and she took me to the Pleiades, and she took me to Arcturus, and showed me how much and introduced me to the Queen of Sirius.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and showed me how much they love humanity and how dedicated the star beings are to humanity. And that the Divine Mother is in service to love. And because the star beings love humanity so much, that she's in service to them and will do anything for them.
Let's here make maybe a differentiation, like Solara does, what she calls our star beings, star brothers and sisters, and space beings. I don't know, when Solara says that, look, not all beings in space are positive beings.
Yes.
But what you're talking about are star beings who are very positive, yes.
Very positive. They're very godlike beings. They live in those higher dimensional frequencies.
Yes.
And they're absolute benevolent beings, and they only work with the highest intention for our planet. They help us tremendously. In fact, we would not be where we are right now without the help of the star beings from planets like Sirius and the Pleiades and
stars and planets.
And Venus. We were talking earlier about Sunat Kumara.
Yes.
And his intervention in our planet. He's another being, a very high being of light, that we would not even exist as a race where we are right now without Sunat Kumara coming to our planet and bringing a light of consciousness of light again here.
Okay. About you were starting to say about the Wilcock Enigma movie, 2012. He was saying about the DMT and the what is the other one? Melatonin.
Yes.
And he started mentioning it, and then we got sidetracked.
Yeah. So I was just saying that during those experiences, then when the DMT opens up.
The DMT is like it opens up the parallel reality where time is a three-dimensional domain that you can go anywhere you want.
Yes. And
okay.
In that place, then you can travel. And you have access to your multi-dimensional self, really.
And the DMT is key.
The DMT is a key.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so is the melatonin. So is sleeping in the dark. And this is another reason. Darkness. He talks about the importance of being in darkness. And there are phrases in the Bible that talk about this. In any case.
And why we talked in the beginning about going to the retreats, because
yes.
at nighttime when you're in your sleep state,
yes.
then your pineal gland also opens up and you have the ability to access your multidimensional self again through your dreaming and through your traveling, so that then you can travel to those retreats.
Yes, indeed. And you can really experience them. Whereas I can close my eyes and ask to go to one of these temples, Luxor. They say there's one in the King's Chamber in Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
They're all over. I can close my eyes and ask to be taken there and to go there, and because I won't see it and experience it as clearly as in the night when I'm sleeping, when I'll see it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I will feel just by closing my eyes, intending for the highest good and asking. After a while, I'll start feeling something quite clear.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't only have to do it in the dream time.
Yes.
Even low talented people. I mean, I don't want to say that. No, even people who
People that haven't practiced.
who haven't, yeah, or have been opened up
Yes.
in this way. Okay, so there are a couple of things I'd like to mention. Did you read the Barbara Marciniak books, the Pleiadian books, back in the 90s?
I haven't read those Palladian books. Other
You've read
Palladian
other
books.
Pleiadian
Yes.
books. Okay. In the Pleiadian, so those books are Barbara Marciniak, and they're very, very good. I recommend them. I loved them then. And the book Earth is an amazing book. And she talks about eventually we'll be like you, and we'll open up our multidimensional consciousness. And I seem to remember a sentence in the book, and we'll even be like these fleet beings, like the Seventh Fleet in the Pacific or wherever it might be, a fleet. And Barbara had
And
cloud.
I just want to clarify, does she mean by fleet a collective consciousness of beings together that feel like it's part of a oneness consciousness, but a particular group? Is that what you mean?
Well, it's a good question what she means, and I wanted to ask you about that. Barbara Han Clow, she has this incredible series from back starting in the 80s, Mind Trilogy Chronicles, or something like that. And she goes back in time to her other past lifetimes, revisits, changes some things, sees other things, and all of these aspects of herself. The one became like a medieval court jester, and then the other was the Mayan priest, and then there was a shaman woman in Britain from 26,000 years ago, and all of these parallel selves who we meet and who we learn about in her book and sort of meet them in her 3 books. She knows them all. And as I understand it, already back then, she could sort of, if she wanted to, go to any one of these aspects of herself.
Mm-hmm.
Just go there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe see them from the outside, or maybe merge with them.
Mm-hmm.
And she's aware. It's like I understood that in a way she's a kind of fleet being, because she knows she's aware of another aspect of herself on Halcyon, the photon, the central star of the Pleiades. Some people call it Alcyon.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a parallel aspect there, whose name was Alini, as I recall.
Mm-hmm.
And she could just, go and look, as I understood it then, look through Alini's eyes, or merge with Alini, or maybe merge with one of her other earthly aspects. I don't know how interested she'd be in doing that necessarily, unless she felt a calling or a reason. But she felt herself, she knew she was, I'm not just Barbara Han Clow. I'm Alini, and I'm the German, and I'm the ancient Britain, and so that's different than, of course, most people.
Yes.
Are you like that?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Okay. So I have through my DNA, by traveling down, I've asked specifically to clear out my ancestor line and to clear out my past life, but I also wanted to find fun lifetimes that could teach me now.
I bet.
So, which is really much more fun.
Yeah.
Not necessarily as important, but But Katumi told me I need to find my lifetimes that I have been an oracle, because I was meant to be an oracle, but I had so much trauma from other lifetimes, the witch burnings and all of that stuff. So I wouldn't let myself access it. So he said, you need to go down your wormhole and find your oracle lifetimes.
Oh my!
Which were really so much fun. So one lifetime I went down, and I actually found this one with the help of Max the Crystal Skull. Do you know who Max the Crystal Skull?
I read about Max the Crystal Skull.
I love
as well
Max.
As the other crystal skulls.
Yes, so I've been with Max on several occasions.
Oh my!
And so during one of my private sessions with Max spontaneously took me back to, for anybody who doesn't know, Max was a crystal skull that was originally created on Sirius, and it's Sirius and Pleiades and Arcturian. It's the three of them together created Max, and Max carries the like a library of humanity from the beginning of time.
Oh wow!
Yes, and Max eventually, this is a side thing, Max eventually, when people understand the technology of that crystal skull, will be able to access that library, and it will come out like a hologram, like on Star Trek. It'll just...
that would be great.
Yeah, we'll learn. So anyway, but right now, Max does amazing energetic work with people when they come. He just changes your DNA, and he brings it in contact, and he talks to you. You can hear Max talking to you like a voice. So I sat down with Max, and Max said, "What is your name?" And I said, I just heard him like you talking to me. And I said, "Sage." And he said, "No, your birth name." And I said, "Sharon." And he said, "Do you know why we named you Sharon?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, you know the Rose of Sharon?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "And the rose is a symbol of the Divine Mother. So we named you the Rose of Sharon, so you would always, from the beginning, when you were born, would be connected to your path, which is the path of the Divine Mother, bringing her." And then the next thing he did, all of a sudden, I was in a different space and time. And I was walking on grass in this kind of more etheric realm, and it was in the very beginnings of, not in the very beginnings, but sometime before the fall of Atlantis.
Ooh.
And then he took me to when I was an adult, and I was the high priestess anchoring the Divine Mother energy on Atlantis.
Oh my!
And so I could feel my consciousness and who I was. And Max told me that I had prepared for 5,000 years for that lifetime.
For that Atlantean lifetime.
For that Atlantean lifetime.
5,000 years before that.
It took 5,000 years to prepare for that. And he said, and I've taken 3,000 years to prepare for this lifetime.
Oh my!
That's like how long when in between lifetimes, we have an understanding of what we're working towards.
Oh my!
And so 3,000 years, and that lifetime is going to specifically help me with this lifetime.
Yes.
And her multidimensional self will help me in my multidimensional self here. That we'll be able to work together. Yes. And then I was taken on another experience to a different planet where I was a king on that planet, and I had learned the powers of precipitation, means instant manifestation. That I learned how to use all the elements of earth, air, fire, water, and how to spontaneously create.
Well, Sai Baba did these things.
Yes, and we all will too when we go into our fifth dimensional beings. It would be natural for us. But they wanted me to see that I had already done it. I have this history in me, and that when you access these other lifetimes, they can help you to have confidence that you're not just some ordinary three-dimensional, I'm a mom, I go to work every day, I have problems with my relationships occasionally.
Yeah. Life in this on Earth at this time will do that to
yes, you just get totally lost in duality
you.
and shrink you, and you totally forget. Oh, I forgot. My ego takes over, and I forget my divinity completely. So the more access that you have to these other lifetimes of power, then the more you start identifying them with you and think, oh, actually, that is me. I have that in me all the time. And also those ancestors I crossed over who are now in the light, now they're feeding my consciousness through my DNA from those light realms, and I have access to that. And then there was a lifetime I found where I was an oracle in Greece, And so I practice so I can step into her consciousness and I can see all the people around me. And really I want to be able to channel like Michelle does and like James Tiburon does, and I know I will eventually. I don't right now. I'm psychic in other ways. But I could feel how it works, so I could energetically track the energetics of her body and go up through my consciousness and bring through the information and then practice in this body with my friends in front of me, but in that reality with her. So I'm like my consciousness is in two different places at the same time. I'm embodying her and talking through her, but I'm in this reality talking to my friends and giving them information, channeling, practicing with her help.
Whoa.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah, I call that sort of a fleet being. Never losing your own individuality.
Yes.
Never losing sage.
Yes.
Fascinating. You know, I have to say, and I've never had it before, and I've interviewed wonderful, amazing people. I do feel like I'm sitting in front of an oracle right now. And I never actually, that thought has never occurred to me. Speaking of Kutumi.
Yes, my beloved teacher, I love him.
I love him too.
Yeah.
I only know him through books, at least consciously. And I've just read 2 books. One was called, first name escapes me, but the second name I'll never forget. From different lifetimes of his.
Yes.
Well, the first book was about when he was Pharaoh in the New Kingdom. Mm-hmm. Okay, and he was, according, the name has come to me. Thank you, maybe Kutumi. The book is called Thutmosis. Okay, and it's channeled by an Australian woman who is very connected to Jim Hobby, the guy who channels Tobias in Crimson Circle. Okay, was connected to he's connected to Lee Carroll of Cryon. Also so anyway, he's a very famous channeler. And she's connected to him. She sort of started with Hoppe, Hoppe. And she wrote 3 books, well, 2 books for now, about different lifetimes of Kutumi. Actually, once I interviewed Kutumi through a channeler who sat in front of me. Anyway, that's not important. What is important is there are these 2 books. Thutmosis III, he was called the Napoleon of the ancient world because he was a great conqueror and a very good person. Believe it or not, it must be hard to be a good person and have so much power. And another lifetime of his was Pythagoras. Okay, and these are 2 different books. And there's one book, the Pythagoras book, which I loved even more, because Pythagoras was the man that was so wonderful and so admirable. The man portrayed in the book, and which is Kutumi, according to the lady who wrote it, whose name escapes me, Melissa Calvi, Marisa with an R. Marissa Calvi wrote these 2 books. And the book Pythagoras, there's one scene where he's done all his mystery school work. He's coming back from Egypt and returning to Greece, Pythagoras, Kutumi, hopefully. And he goes to see a little girl, Oracle. And this little girl, Oracle, maybe she's 9 or 10 or 11, I don't remember. She's amazing and incredible. And Pythagoras comes in front of her, and when she starts speaking to him, he's so struck by what she's saying about. She's talking about what it is he's going to do yet, what it is he's meant to do to become the Pythagoras that has changed the whole world, who's left us modern mathematics, modern music, so many things. So he puts his hands, he crosses his forearms on his chest, and he closes his hands, sort of in a sort of like a fist, but a gentle fist, and they're crossed over his chest. And he's sort of kneeling in front of her because with his arms crossed over his chest like this. And it struck me, the image struck me so strongly of this life-changing moment for Pythagoras in ancient Greece, in front of this little girl oracle. I'm wondering if you were the little girl, but it doesn't matter, okay? Because when I think of that little girl and Pythagoras sort of on his knees before her with his arms crossed over his heart, over his chest, it touches me. Of all the images in that wonderful, inspiring, humorous, deep book, Pythagoras is what it's called, no image has stayed with me like that, like him in front of that little girl oracle. And I'm feeling like first time it's happened to me that, well, I mean, we never talked about oracles in any of my interviews.
Yeah.
And Noam is certainly an oracle. I have a friend who's incredible. But it just occurs to me, even the chair you're sitting in is a very, very old chair. It was my grandmother's chair. And in any case.
Well, it's interesting, the story about the oracles. The oracles in Greece originally came from Atlantis. So when Atlantis was falling, when the cataclysm was happening, then the people who were part of the Law of One spread out across the planet. And the oracles, many of the women who were the priestesses at the time went to Greece, up to Delphi. And that the oracles were incarnating for a long time, and that their purity of who they were was kept pure. And then at some point there was something that happened. I can't remember what the story was, but the oracles lost their pure consciousness, their connection to God.
Delphi was corrupted. For one, Delphi at the beginning, according to a thing I saw on the History Channel, was dedicated to the Earth Goddess.
Yes.
And then it was changed.
Yes.
And dedicated to Apollo.
Yes.
Okay, a male.
Yes.
And they were all priestesses.
Yes.
And there was big towards the end, or towards later Greece, the later ancient Greece. Big money became involved. It became a big center. Money was involved.
People had to come all the way up there to pay their taxes.
It became something very different from what it was. I mean, this is the human history until now.
Yes,
Things get corrupted.
When I went to Delphi, I sat in the temple of, was it Athena's temple? Well, one of the round, I think it was Athena. And you're not supposed to go into the center of they have it roped off.
Yeah.
Somehow I just couldn't stand it. So I looked around, there was nobody there, and the guard was looking someplace else. I jumped into the middle of the temple and sat there in meditation, and spontaneously some energy light shot up from the middle of the earth. I could see go right up through me. It was the most powerful thing I'd ever felt almost. Went around the planet like a tube torus, all the way around the planet, and then stopped. And the second that it stopped, the guard said, "Get out of there!" And I looked up. Sorry.
I love that. I love that story. Yeah. And that confirms what I'm feeling, that you are...
I definitely was one of the oracles.
You were one of the oracles.
In Greece, yeah. I just need to reconnect with that lifetime, and they tell me it's coming soon. Soon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'm a big fan of another great writer. This is... I get things secondhand. Yes, this is a complaint. I'm a big fan, but I'm so grateful to my teachers, and I can't complain because it's all my
yeah.
It's all me. A great teacher, explorer, courageous man. is a fellow named Graham Hancock.
Oh, I love Graham Hancock.
Okay.
Yes, I've seen him several times. I've been to his lectures at the Earthkeeper
Okay.
gatherings.
So we agree.
Yeah.
All right.
It's great.
Now, he has, he's been doing sacred work in Peru
Mm-hmm.
with ayahuasca.
Mm-hmm.
And Lady Ayahuasca has given him a book,
Mm-hmm.
which, I wish I could remember the name so I could.
Oh, I saw the book when I was there. What is it? It's a fictional book, but it has all the principles of spirituality within the book.
Yes, and it sounds like a great book.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Anyway, he says Lady Ayahuasca gave it to him.
Mm-hmm.
The whole story in his head while he was in the middle of the sacred ceremony. I stress sacred ceremony, not
Yes.
to these are not things to get
Yes.
in your hands and just adventure with them. These are sacred things, okay? So anyway, and not to be played with, that's disrespect. That would be disrespect. So anyway, he gets the whole involved wonderfully. I've heard the plot, him explaining plot, and he sees the whole thing while he's in the ceremony. And he talked about, and then later in the interview, he talked about the guardians.
Mm-hmm.
The guardians of the earth. I suppose there are guardians of the galaxy and guardians of the universe. And Sanat Kumara has been, they say he was the logos of this world, which is like a guardian, I guess, although more. Ayahuasca, you told me over the phone, it's like a plant spirit,
Mm-hmm.
obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but a guardian spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about the guardians of the earth.
Well, I don't know as much about the guardians of the earth realm as I do the cosmic guardians, but I did just read at one, and I will talk about the guardians in the cosmic realm because that's just what I know about. But I do know that what I learned from a channeling that just came through James Tiburon was about the great sequoias, the redwoods and the sequoias.
Also in the Telos books,
Mm-hmm.
Aurelia Louise Jones, there's
Mm-hmm.
a chapter where she's channeling the sequoias.
Yes, and they are the ascended beings of the plant realm.
Okay.
And that they...
Which makes sense. In
Yes.
many, the biggest and the oldest.
The biggest, oldest, and if you have ever walked through the great sequoias, and I have many times, I used to live up there,
Ooh.
and you stand in there and it feels like you are in a majestic realm, like you are with the kings and the queens of the plant realm. And Metatron says that their vibrational frequency is so powerful that you just go into their field and they realign your energy field just by standing next to them. They're so beautiful.
I bet.
And that in the times of Lemuria and Atlantis, those people used to come to the sequoias to go into council with them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Lord of the Rings.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they would get advice from them, they would talk to them, and that they said that all plants on the planet have a more of a collective consciousness. They feel themselves as a collective energy, but the sequoias and the redwoods have an individual consciousness in themselves along with the collective consciousess, and that it's the highest incarnation of the plant realm. So I consider them guardians of the planet because they're also carry the history of our planet.
Look, the oak tree must...
And the oaks, the great old oaks,
very,
also.
very important.
Yes, the great oaks also. He talks about them. And in the realm of so that's the plant realm, but also in the realm of the elemental kingdom. So when I
You
look...
mean those stones and crystals? And
No, I'm talking about... So let me give a bigger picture. So in our planet, and I know that Judaism has their own meaning for Elohim, but in the context I'm going to talk about Elohim, they are part of Godhead, and they are the creators of form.
okay.
So our universe has three elements that we work with. So the Elohim are the creator of form. So when the beings who God wanted to create form in our universe, the planets, the stars, the plants, everything. The Elohim are the ones that work with form. It goes all the way, and there's a hierarchy of the Elohim. So they're the great Elohim that hold form together, the universes, the galaxies, the planets, everything. Then when you come down into it, then there are the Davic beings, the elemental Davic beings. And they look over the smaller elemental beings,
Okay.
like the fairies and the gnomes and the salamanders, all of the different elemental beings and the fairies. So they are trained how to bring form into consciousness. The smallest aspect of the elemental realm is the electron.
Yeah.
And the electron has consciousness.
I know.
Right. And so,
I mean, I hear and I believe.
yes. And so the elementals know how to work with the elements of the earth, the air, the fire, the water. And so that whole, from the Elohim all the way down through the devas of the different kingdoms, hold and create form together. And so
Yes.
the guardians are also in those different hierarchy.
Okay.
Like the Elohim are the guardians of the universal
Okay.
form. And then there are the beings who have mastered the elements, like I think of Pele Hunamea, who has mastered the fire element and works with the fire. And then
San Germain and crystals, no?
yes, and then there are the crystal beings. So there are different Davic beings, different very high vibrational frequency beings that watch over the planet, and they train the lower elemental beings to hold. So a flower, literally when a flower gets created on a tree, it's brought into form by the elemental beings. And then it gets focused on to hold that form. So every plant and every animal, every plant, we're just talking about plants, every plant and tree has an elemental being that holds its consciousness on that form.
Okay, the obvious question now, maybe I'm sidetracking, is what about us?
Yes, we have an elemental being. It's a body elemental. We were talking about this before. That we have completely lost contact with our body elemental being because we don't see.
Are you saying like a
the
leprechaun or
elementals.
something? Or
It's
what do you mean?
It's a body elemental is, well, kind of like a leprechaun, but not a leprechaun.
Which is kind of like a gnome.
Kind of like a gnome, but
like an elf.
like a tree has a tree frond. That tree has a consciousness. The physical body of the tree, like we have a physical body, is the physical body, but there's a consciousness in the tree that is a tree fawn. We would call it a tree fawn. The Shipibo shamans meet, and in their ceremonies, when they go into isolation, they meet the spirit of all the animals and the trees and plants. They teach them the medicinal properties of everyone because there's a spirit that teaches them. We have a spirit of our physical body that literally from the time of conception starts to form our cells, our organs, our brain, our circulatory system. It creates the physical body, and our body elemental travels with us from lifetime to lifetime, from our very first lifetime we ever had, that we were ever created on this planet. It's the same body elemental. And that body elemental in the times before we went into forgetfulness and separation and duality, we had a very intimate relationship with our body elemental because our body elemental loves us. It's the thing that loves us unconditionally, that's never separated from us, ever.
In our ignorance, we could treat our body elementals and our bodies very badly.
We treat our body elemental very badly because our body elemental is constantly screaming at us, please eat this, drink your water, don't eat that, you need to exercise. It knows how, our body elemental knows how to bring our bodies into a state of perfection. But we fight against it all the time because we don't even know it exists. And so we could heal our bodies and bring all of our health. I'm not saying everything, but if you get sick or you get the flu or you get whatever, our body elementals know what the cause is. If you have disease, our bodies know what the cause of that disease is.
In kinesiology, it's our, wouldn't you say, it's our body's intelligence? Or
it's our body's intelligence.
Or our body's elemental giving us the answer?
Yes. Yes, and so in my workshops, I teach people how to meet their body elemental.
Ooh, wow.
And I take them into meditation. Well, it's very sweet the way that in Aurelia Lewis's Jones, she's the one who talks about it in her book. And I just use her imagery because it's so beautiful. She says the body elemental is like a 3 foot high. You guys have meters, so 1 meter size mini me. It dresses like me. It looks like me. It has a perfected being of me that is with me all the time. But I picture them with big eyes, big beautiful eyes, and I can see her now. I visualize her when she's on my lap.
Wait, Aurelia says that's what they look like?
That's how she says to visualize them.
Okay.
And because then you can, it's just so easy when you see your perfected being, your of you, and then you can close your eyes or however you do. I turn on music and I tell people to have a conversation. First thing, apologize for not knowing that they existed, and then to listen to them. And always I feel this, everybody cries because the feeling of love is so profound that they have loved you for eternity, but we have forgotten. So just to be acknowledged is so profound. And me just now sitting here in the moment, I'm just filled with love. My body elemental's wrapping her arms around me. And
oh my!
It's like a place where you have
my.
connection to instant love. Somebody who just unbelievable unconditional love is right there for you.
Let me ask you, because it pops into my head. Well, I mean, I've had big issues with my body, as maybe you could imagine. And I was told by once that my body elemental was really upset with me because I've had thoughts of hurting myself and have hurt myself with those thoughts. When we hurt our bodies, do we hurt our body elementals?
When you hurt, your body elemental can't help but love your body.
Okay.
It just can't help it. That's what it's created. Your body elemental was specifically created for your body.
Yes.
And should travel with you through time. And so it spends its whole life focusing on creating this body and working with this body. And so when you try to hurt it, then it's like you working on a masterpiece and somebody comes and wants to smash it and kill it.
Yeah.
And then it's just
how
horrifying to have somebody do that, or your body elemental is saying, your body is falling apart because you're eating toxic food or you're doing this. Please stop, and your thoughts are creating decay in your body, and you need to heal this emotional issue because it's being manifested in your physical body and it's trying so hard to tell you and you can't hear it. And so when you turn against your body, then you're like it's trying everything to save it and you're trying everything to destroy it. So then it's a relationship problem. Between you and your body elemental.
And so many people are caught in this vicious cycle of hating their bodies.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And there is a point about the ascension process, about the elementals, that I just wanted to say that briefly, but there are 3 aspects, because what we're doing in our hearts as we're going through the ascension process is developing our threefold flame of the heart.
All right.
And our threefold flame of the heart is love, power, and wisdom. When you said, can you imagine being somebody with that much power and being a good leader, person? In our other lifetimes, we've separated out. We have lifetimes where we focus on love. We have lifetimes where we focus on power. We have lifetimes where we focus on wisdom. Wisdom, you might, be Pythagoras and working on developing your mind. And
yes.
Love, you might be working, you might be in a monastery and focusing on your relationship with spirit. And power, you might be a CEO of a business or something, or a general. And they're all very separated. But in this lifetime, our work is to bring those all together. That we're developing love, power, and wisdom in one lifetime. That we have to bring those together. And the way that the universe is created is also through that same threefold flame. So the elemental beings are the representation of power. And the masculine form, it's masculinity. The angelic realm is the pink of the threefold flame, and it's the realm of love. They're the guardians of the planet, the archangels, all the different realms of angels, and they always hold God consciousness and the virtues of love of God. And humanity is the wisdom. and humanity is
Yellow.
the yellow flame.
What is that? What are the elementals? Blue?
And the elementals are blue. They're the Elohim. And so the ascended masters of the highest realm and the Kohans as they have ascended off of this planet, and they're the ones helping us.
The guardians.
The guardians of humanity, the ones who are guarding our consciousness and helping us to unfold our wisdom.
Like Babaji.
Yes, like Babaji.
All right.
Yes.
So, I'm so into the structure and the hidden codes in words, Hebrew and English. It strikes me, the word self, it strikes me that the word self has the word elf in it. And
Oh, yeah, that is true. It does, doesn't it?
and Doreen Virtue, another one of my favorites.
Yes, love Doreen.
She says that some people, whereas they're sort of very angelic, they're very much from the angelic realm, or at least a major aspect of their souls is from the angelic realm, and other people are more from the fairy realm, or the elfin realm, or the earth elemental realm. And she thinks, she thinks, you want to answer?
I just know
It'll
that
be
that's going to be a
edited.
sign that they're expecting me. So
So maybe we have to sort of wind it up. You want? Can you just shut it so we can, or do you want to answer?
I don't want to answer. I can call them back, whoever it is. It's only going to be Judy or Norm or Gary.
All right. All right. Gary is your husband,
Yes.
who I hope to interview
Yes.
in a couple of days. All right. So Doreen says that some people are more from the fairy or the elfin realm, whereas other people, their souls are more from the angelic. And there's a wonderful chapter in Solara's great book, The Starborn. And in this chapter, it's in Quebec, Canada. She's on a farm of a friend. And she goes outside, it was many years ago already, and the gnomes, whatever you want to call them, leprechauns, gnomes, elves, are having a great big party because they received that they are going to graduate.
Mm.
And Solara had a big role in this party, this ceremony. It wasn't by accident that she came to it was a farm in Quebec. It's a chapter in the book. And so they were very, very happy, these little 3-foot-tall beings, playing their violins and doing their little jigs, and having a party. So anyway, about the self and the word elf, and I don't even know what my point is here, except that it's a time and the beings having the party because they're graduating, and that thrilled me.
It's so beautiful, isn't it?
It's
so
me.
fun.
It made me happy because all the beings, they graduate and move on, and the evolution is for. I mean, they've been so loyal to us and helping us, and it just made me so happy to read that article.
Yes.
They were so happy to be
Yes.
moving up, and
Yes.
maybe they'll become like human beings. Though that's always been possible, according to Doreen, where if an elf or a gnome wished it strong enough for the right purpose, that could happen.
Oh, I wish I knew which one it was, but one of the Kohans of the Seven Flames talks about that he was originally from the elemental realm.
Yeah.
And that he moved from the elemental realm into the human realm and then became an ascended master.
Amazing.
That is amazing, isn't it?
The whole thing, yeah. This whole world, universe, it's totally beyond. I have a dear friend named Hadassah, who lives in Italy now. She was in a relationship with a guy named Dale. Dale from California. And anyway, Dale had strong, clear memories and guidance that he had been Akhenaten. And Dale had received them, as well as my friend Hadassah, in Italy, that she was Nefertiti, okay, his wife. Well, I have a picture of them here. Anyway, so a bunch of my friends gathered. We did a meditation with Hadassah in the room, and Nefertiti, Hadassah, and I'm convinced she was Nefertiti. She wasn't in the room. We were doing it simultaneously while Dale and Hadassah were in the great chamber, the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid. We were linking in, and the leader of the meditation in my home, a different home at that time, Devorah, my great teacher and friend, she and other people received messages that we had once gathered together in the time of Akhenaten, in a previous time, and that we had done a work then to close the door. We had done a work then purposely with Akhenaten and Nefertiti, I think. Yes, for sure. Apparently I was a scribe then. And we had done a work to close the doorway between the world of the fairies and the elves and the human world. And for some reason it was our belief, or our leader's belief, that that doorway needed to be closed for a while. I understand that, I think, for a while, why that door might have needed to be closed. Anyway, that was around 2003 to and our work, as we gathered and linked in with Dale and Hadassah, our work was to reopen the door that we had closed. Nice. Okay?
Beautiful. But it must mean that humanity is ready for that door to be open, because it closed because humanity needed that closed. That the elemental world needed to be protected from humanity. That's why the door closed.
We had to go through this process of sort of exaggerated individuation, where it's great to be an individual, and we needed that individualization, but it's gone to an extreme.
Yes, we went down as far as you could possibly go in individuation.
It went to an extreme, and now we're coming out of it. Thank God, still individuated. We don't want to lose that, but now is the time to remember the heart, as John Below, another great teacher, talks about, of mind and heart merging. Mind and heart have been separated.
They've been separated, and it's a separation from the goddess realm, because when you say that, I know that we're separated from the mind of God and the heart of the mother.
Yeah.
And that now what we're doing is bringing in the mind of God, which Buddhism did a very good job of that, but we had lost the heart of the mother. Now the heart of the Divine Mother is coming back to the planet.
Hallelujah.
Now. And so you can't have the heart and the mind separate from each other, and it requires both the Divine Mother and the Divine Father within us.
You bet. So, I'm such a big fan of the Findhorn Garden and what it is they achieved there, and what it represents for humanity. I understand that it represents our future, when we are going to be living in a conscious harmony and love with these great beings
and
helping us for so long.
And that we've lost contact with the ability to create, because that's what they do. That realm, the elemental beings are the creator realm, and we are here to learn to consciously create, and we've forgotten that we're creator beings, partly due to our loss of watching it happen in front of us and our relationship with the elemental kingdom that can just manifest like that. We don't even know how that happens any longer. So when we have that gift of our relationship coming back, then we can also observe it and know that, this is possible for us too, that we're creator beings. We can manifest and precipitate instantly like the elemental kingdom does.
Now, we've known ourselves as creators in a negative, non-magical way. Like in the Genesis it says, God says, or whoever it was says, God says to Adam, go out and rule, go out and dominate all things in the garden or and go out and do what you want. Not in those words, of course, but the idea. What?
Originally, it was like being caretakers of all those.
Yes, well, that was the original intention.
Yes.
But what's expressed in the Genesis that we read today is
dominate.
To dominate. It's you're the man and the human, and it's yours to do whatever you want. And that's going to change. And when we remember magical creation from love, creation based in love, And then we won't need, of course, fertilizers and stuff like that to grow our food, because the divas, like they did in Frinthorn, and the nature spirits will be guiding us and working with us consciously.
Yes, and teaching us how.
And teaching us
how.
Do you want to answer?
I better answer, because just in case that was Gary.
Okay.
Sorry. Because his class is probably, they're over and they're wondering where I'm at, I'm sure. Where is it? Here it is.
Ah.
Oh, no, it's Judy again.
Do you want to answer?
No.
Do you want to answer?
They said they'd be here by 6. So I'm
All
just going
right.
to trust them. So we'll just get off and then I'll deal with it.
Okay.
I'm loving this conversation too. It's
So, I mean, I'm
very fun.
I've never been able to talk about any of this stuff, though I have had wonderful people.
You've had really wonderful people. The people you mentioned are just fascinating.
Yeah, well, these are not people I interviewed, but
Yes.
people I admire.
Uh-huh.
You know, like Jordan Below and James and Graham.
But you have talked about some amazing people that you've interviewed. But I feel the same way though. They're such incredible teachers. Like what I have inside of me is partly comes from me, but I really want to acknowledge and honor all my teachers. That the people who are amazing channels that have brought through this information, like Aurelia Lewis Jones and Michelle Manders and James Tuberone and Carol from Cryon, and all of those people have opened up a world to us that wouldn't be possible without their ability to connect with these teachers and the ascended beings in the angelic realm and the star beings. And I'm
Yes.
forever grateful for the teachings from them and how it's changed and guided my life.
As am I.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such an exciting time. Sage. I mean, you talk about this course that Sage was supposed to do a course with Rhonda. You could see Rhonda in the interview with Gina and John. She was the translator, and I hope to interview her soon. You were going to do this course with the Merkaba, and it sounds so magnificent. 2 thoughts pop in my mind. One, it's truly an amazing, wonderful, real thing, and the other is, would I have been able to do these things anyway?
Of course you would.
I have
It's not that. Oh, I know you would have. You would have not had a problem. I also teach the class with the DNA going down the wormholes. That's one of my basic classes.
Oh my
that I
goodness.
teach. Yeah, I teach both of them.
Speaking of the great Barbara Hand Cloud,
Yes.
she had in one of those early books of hers, and she has late books too, recent books, including a very recent book, which I understand is magnificent. She talks about at the center of the earth. Of course, people say it's an iron crystal.
But we know differently.
The scientists will say that, and I suppose it's true. I mean, they must have basis for that claim. But since many things could exist in the same space at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
like there could be a 3000 BC family living in this very space of my salon, going back and forth,
Yep.
and me not knowing about them and them not knowing about me. So maybe there is an iron crystal. I don't know what an iron crystal would look like, but maybe there are other dimensional realities in which there are other things. Well, Barbara says that there is.
Mm-hmm.
She says
Mm-hmm.
that at the core of the earth, there is a hologramic light world with mountains and rivers and people, maybe like more light. Maybe everything is sort of just kind of light, but maybe it's real enough.
So sorry.
Okay.
Now that's scary. Hang on just a second. Honey, I'll call you back in 5 minutes. I'm just finishing up my interview.
Okay, well, we're headed to the church.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. So she says there's this ball, or maybe it's crystalline, and there's a whole holographic world. What she says is the things that exist on the Earth's surface, everything we see around us, can only exist because its perfect form somehow exists at the core of the Earth. Because it's there in it's sort of like a library, but a living world library of holographic or light world, mountains, rivers, people, animals, insects, and it's a whole world. Sort of reminds me like the Garden of Eden idea, thought, and she says that's what's at the core of the earth. That's, I think she may call it 1D. And there's something similar at the center of the galaxy. A holographic library of existence. In other words, everything there is in its perfected form, and because it exists at the center of the galaxy in this perfect light world, bubble, microcosm of the macrocosm of the galaxy, because it exists there, because it could exist in the galaxy. In a way, it's sort of, first of all, I love Barbara and believe in her. And it makes sense to me that at the core of the earth, there is a sort of like a library of life in its perfected form that makes possible the different species that appear on the surface. Does any of this ring with you?
Well, lots of stuff that you just said. I have lots of stuff about that. One is that they call it the immaculate concept, and that the perfected hologram of image is the immaculate concept, and each of us actually has a blueprint of our own being that is also held in that immaculate concept, that's held for us to access that perfection being. And
it's held around in our energy field, but is it also held in the core of the earth?
Well, what I have seen, and that we have to finish soon because they're all calling me.
Yeah.
In
That's
the
the
core,
deal.
the ascended beings have said that in the core of the earth is the sun of even pressure.
Is the what?
Sun of even pressure.
Oh.
And that there is literally a sun of light in the center of the earth. And that light radiates out through the light. It's not solid, that all the planets are hollow. And that the earth itself is in perfection. The mountains are, it's a reflection. So if there's a mountain here, there's a mountain in the center of the earth, but twice as big actually. They said that the mountains are twice as big, the trees are twice as big, but the sun of even pressure, because the consciousness of the beings who live in the center of the earth have a perfected consciousness.
Okay.
The weather reflects, and the environment reflects that perfect consciousness.
Okay.
And so the consciousness of everything there, the weather patterns, the animals, everything lives in this absolute harmony.
The people.
The people live in harmony with the environment.
Is there a parallel sage? Is there a parallel Eliyahu there?
It's not, well, there may be an aspect of you already living there that has in another lifetime parallel, could be, but it's not that everything on the top has a perfection in the center. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the center of the earth herself lives in this pristine earth. The earth, like the Telos beings and the beings who live under Machu Picchu and the different cities of light know how to live in harmony. And so within the city, within the sun, there's always beings of light that live within that I can imagine hold the blueprint of the perfection of the planet that they're embodying.
So the sun at the core of the earth and the sun of our solar system.
So the sun of our solar system is not just the sun. There are beings of light who live within that sun. There's cities of light in the sun.
Oh my.
And then there's also the great central sun. So the great central sun is where our true Mother, Father, God actually exist, and all the beings of light go to the great central sun. So we have our sun of even pressure, we have our sun here, and we have the great central sun, and all of the galaxies rotate around the great central sun. And we have our own light within. And so all of them have the immaculate concept held within the consciousness of where God's creation originates.
Okay.
That's what the Ascended Masters do. That's like a very brief understanding, what I understand.
Okay, well, they're not here yet, so I'm going to keep going.
Yes.
Okay? Now, but on the other hand, I've heard that there was an ashram of Melchizedek at the center of the universe, and an ashram, so But that doesn't necessarily contradict.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
Not at all.
You could have also this beautiful world with at the core of the earth, and I heard there's an ashram of Melchizedek at the core of the earth, or in Middle Earth, if that's not the same. But you could have a beautiful world of mountains, trees, animals, people, and an ashram of Melchizedek at the same time.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. Now, of course, that brings up a wonderful topic of cities of light. Cities of light on the different dimensions. Fifth dimensional cities of light. I've been told that Avalon is a city of light.
Shambhala.
Well, I didn't know they were the same. Are you
No,
saying?
no, I'm not saying they're the same.
Okay.
I'm just saying that's another city.
Shambhala,
Shambhala.
Shambhala, cities of light that once had maybe aspected themselves on the physical earth, and that's another story.
Camelot was another one.
Oh, are you saying Camelot existed?
Camelot existed, and it's still an imprint of perfection of how a kingdom should be run by a benevolent king, and that it's held there in the consciousness to hold that consciousness of humanity.
It's a hugely powerful imprint.
Yes.
I mean, that story resonates
Yes.
with people all around
Yes.
the world. And Cryon did say in his first book that Arthur was an ascended master.
Yes, Arthur is an ascended master. Right?
Oh my, you talk like you know him.
Well, I just believe when the ascended masters teach, we have such faith.
Okay. But you probably know Saint Germain, don't you?
Well, I work with all those ascended masters, yes.
Oh, it was Merlin.
Yes.
Now, Arthur and there's a connection. Well, Tobias talked about it. James, the Crimson Circle, James Harpy, on the internet. It's a huge website connected with crime. Started out with Lee Carroll, and they're good friends. These guys, James Harpy and Lee Carroll. Anyway, Tobias of the Crimson Circle says there's a big connection between Arcturus and all these stories of Camelot and the whole Camelot and Arthur, and it's sort of very connected with Arcturus, which sounds like Arthur.
Does, doesn't it? Isn't that interesting? That play on words that you do, that's really interesting.
And the word arc makes you think of the round table. You don't know about that, do you? The connection between Arcturus and... Okay, now another thing. You've used ayahuasca, and I would use it today if you were doing a ceremony, and I had the chance. And I passed up on that a few times. And no, I want sacred ceremony by shamans or by leaders who are of high integrity. And I would never touch any of that stuff without that. But you talked about your ayahuasca ceremonies. You know, the Keys of Enoch, about the Hebrew letters, they talk a lot about the Hebrew letters. They say every Hebrew letter is an eternal idea of God. And they say that you could literally travel through worlds by deeply connecting with the Hebrew letters.
How beautiful.
Each Hebrew letter is like this whole... It's a drawing. It's sort of like this symbolic... what do you call it? Mandala. Okay? And you could, according to them, access different worlds. And I work with that. I try to... And
Beautiful.
They say that whole worlds are... There's a whole chapter about the famous Hero Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one, which in Hebrew is Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. And then there's another whole chapter in the book about another little phrase, little bit huge, called, that goes in English, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole world is filled with His glory. That's what the angels say around the throne of God in the tradition, anyway. So, but apparently there's a lot to the tradition. In Hebrew, it's Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Malo Kol Haaretz Kvudo. And they say that you could create worlds, and that worlds are created with these phrases, these two phrases in particular. And so you talk about ayahuasca, and and now I'm tempted. I'm a little sorry I passed up those opportunities. If it's meant to come around again, it will. But I always wanted, coming from the Jewish tradition, I always wanted to realize what's promised in the Keys of Enoch. At least, not always, but since I read it, I would love that ability to so deeply connected to the Hebrew letters, and in the Keys they talk about 5 galactic languages, not just Hebrew. Hebrew is the most prevalent in the book, but the other 5 are Chinese, Tibetan, Sanskrit, and Egyptian hieroglyphs. Okay, these are galactic languages of galactic civilizations, and the 9 monkeys. Okay, and you could travel. You did travel to other worlds, not by looking at the 9 monkeys, but by connecting to that sarcophagus. Have you had any experience of succeeding in doing this, traveling to other worlds? Well, I guess the sarcophagus experience is that.
Well, I have, because this is, boy, I'm going to try to say this really fast, but you mentioned the ayahuasca, so I'm going to tell you about my last ayahuasca journey. So what really one of the biggest blessings in my life is when I connect to the divine, when I use ayahuasca. So what I did last time was travel up to my I am presence, and I actually got to feel the power and the presence of who I am in that place, and how it just, I was blown away by who I am in my I am presence, and who everybody is, who you are, who
Yes.
doesn't matter if you believe it or not, you just are your I am presence in your most, when you're not in your body, and you go. But from there, the Syrians put a helmet on my head, and it was like they fine-tuned the directional compass, whatever it was, in my pineal gland and pituitary gland. And then, so that I could go straight up to the great central sun and to the heart of Mother, Father, God. And so when I traveled up to the great central sun, when I got up to the great central sun, I saw that place where Mother, Father, God's consciousness permeated the entire universe, where their love was in the fabric of the universe. I could see it everywhere, and that it was like seeing them, not that they're in a body, but in my perception I could see this divine Mother, Father, God, literally their beauty sitting on a throne. It was like kind of just what they showed me, but I went right in on their lap and sat on their laps.
Oh my!
And had them put their arms around me, and I just merged into the love of Mother, Father, God, and then felt that love going out throughout the entire universe, where nothing in the universe exists that isn't held together by their love. And so that...
Okay. My.
That's what happens. I think we can end on that, maybe.
Yes, I think that's a great place to
You're
end.
beautiful. Talk about the language was so gorgeous, and that story, that's a good ending.
Okay. Thank you, Sage.
You're so welcome. What a pleasure.
What a pleasure. If you come back, I would love to interview you again, Bezrat Hashem, as we say here, with the help of God.
Great, and I will
Thank
certainly
you.
come over and visit. I feel like
Okay.
I've made a friend.
So do I.
Blessings. Namaste.
Namaste. Namaste to all of you. Thank you.
Okay.